Did your young people go to university? If so, where and when did they go?
So, do you want me to be first on that? So my daughter went to, I've got 4 children, all been to uni or going to uni or are at uni. My daughter went into Bishop Grot in 2011, graduated in 2015, absolutely loved it, lived at home. My son went soon after, a couple of years later, went to Leeds, was desperate to move out of home, so we did everything we could to facilitate that. He lived in halls of residence at Leeds, and then decided that he wanted to go into the Air Force. So he binned it after 6 months. And my twin boys, one's in his 2nd year at Lincoln, and the other one is in his 1st year because he took a year out, and he's at Notts Trent. He lives out. My other son, who's at Lincoln, lives at home.
Excellent. What about you, Maria?
Okay, I've got 2 boys. One has started 3 years ago at Lincoln. He had a year out, which was abroad in Belgium. Unfortunately, it was cut short because of lockdown, so he came back early, and he has restarted his 4th year this year, and is at Lincoln, living at home. He was quite mature because he traveled alone during the holidays, so he travels to university every day before the lockdown. Now, obviously, everything is online, and he's quite happy. Even though he's at home, he's okay with cooking and looking after his room. Where my younger one has joined this year, and he was looking forward to go to Nottingham University, starting the same course as my older one, which is International Relations and Politics. However, he wanted to go to Nottingham, but due to lockdown, I convinced him to stay at home and actually travel to Lincoln. So he is also at Lincoln University. However, I would have thought if he went away, he would have matured more because he's still more kind of a mommy's boy. And I think living on his own, it wouldn't be that easy as it have been for my older one.
Did you help them choose the course, or did you not get involved in that stage?
I didn't get involved. My boys for 4 years lived in North Africa, and they attended a British private school where they also learn curriculum in Arabic and English and French as a language. So they've traveled as well throughout Europe, and they had been interested in politics because of my husband. He's a councillor. And the first one, obviously, the first son, he's chosen his course and he's applied for everything, financing and everything else, where my younger one was interested to do law. However, when he found out what his brother was doing, he thought that's quite a nice course and he wants to live abroad. So he's thinking about intelligence, but doing the same course. So no, I have not give the idea to them at all.
Did anybody else help their young people choose their course at uni?
My son's been to 2. He went to Nottingham when he left school, but he didn't enjoy it at all. And now he's at Derby. And I didn't have any input for his first choice, but he didn't know what he wanted to do when he came back because he just knew that he didn't want to do the course that he was on. And I was the one that looked through lots and lots of courses. He wanted to go to Derby. So I went online and looked through courses that were available at Derby and things that he had A-levels in. And I suggested to him, I had a list of things. Would you like to do this? Would you like to do this? And in the end, he said, yeah, you know what, Mum, that sounds really good to me. He's changed his mind since he's been there because he did a double honours degree, but he's dropped one of them and he's just doing maths now. So.
And how did you find the student finance application?
So I didn't have anything to do with that. My wife did it, and apparently she does all the checking as well every year. But apparently she found it quite easily. But I didn't have anything to do with that. I'd just get it wrong.
For my boys, it was actually Boston Grammar School was really good. So they've helped them. So I didn't have to look into it at all.
For me, I used to do it for other students as part of my job, but actually doing it for myself just gave me a really different perspective. But actually the school themselves were really, really helpful. So just going through and taking the advice from other people, because when you're doing it from a different perspective, you know, it's different, it's personal. But yeah, the schools were really, really helpful. It was quite a simple process.
Yeah, I helped him on the first time, and the first year of the second time. But this second year, he's done it all himself. So he's a big boy now.
How did you help your child prepare for life away from home? Was this financial or cooking?
All of the above for me.
My son's not a bad cook, so he was actually able. I wasn't too fussed about, and he does. He can cook on a budget and things like that, and he actually cooks for the rest of the people that he lives with a lot of the time. He doesn't always organise his time very well, but with regards to cooking, I was quite confident that he'd be able to look after himself.
I think I went into overdrive on this bit, because I was convinced that my very smothered, if you like, only child, who I've babied for too long, I think, was going to live on a diet of super noodles and beans on toast for 3 years. So I started teaching him how to cook. I started forcing him, and it was forcing him, to make at least one of the family meals for the week, just to learn. I made him keep a little book. I was quite regimented about it, actually, which, looking back, is quite ridiculous. I think it was more for my sake than his, with hindsight. But yeah, I did try and prepare him with cooking, and now when he comes home, he does actually cook. So something went in, something definitely went in, and he doesn't seem to be suffering from any vitamin deficiencies. So I think I think he's managing.
Whereas all my children are quite self-sufficient. They've been cooking for years, but that said, they still love off super noodles and pizza. So it's whatever's easier. But they've certainly got the skills. They just don't particularly use them.
Okay, for my elder one, even though I knew he's gonna be at home, he's quite self-efficient as well. So he cooks for his girlfriends, he cooks for us. With my younger one, I was hoping he's gonna stay at home, even though he really wanted to go to Nottingham. So I didn't really bother, because I do still mother him. So I haven't actually prepared him. But if he have chosen to go to Nottingham, probably it will have to have like 2 months course of intensive cooking.
What about things like budgeting and stuff like that? Did you, other than cooking, was there anything that you guys had to prepare them for?
No, I had to make sure he opened a bank account. He knew how to access it. That was about it, really.
And to know what an overdraft is.
He does now.
Well, mine would be driving, because both of them are driving. So if I start with my elder one on his practice lessons on the top of the lessons itself. And with my younger one, he's unfortunate because of lockdown, his tests have been cancelled, but I do sit alongside him to practice until he actually has his test, because he's done all his lessons. So driving is the most important in my household.
How did you prepare yourselves for your young people going?
I didn't.
I didn't. No. I think we actually went to a load of shops and bought them bought each one of them every time they went, toasters and all sorts of stuff, the one that lived away, and make sure they had 2 weeks worth of shopping in when they started, and close the door and wave goodbye. See you later. That was about it, really. No, there was no preparation. As long as they've got money on their phone. That was about it, really. Made sure we bought all the books for them, and they had enough to live on. So that was it, really.
Okay, for mine, I went with both to open days. So both of them wanted to go to Nottingham initially. So I've been to Nottingham and Lincoln universities. And what I did, prepare them like IT equipment, both for them, so if they carry. Worried a bit because at the time when my elder one went in, the library was open 24 hours, so he preferred to go at night actually to Lincoln to do his studies. So it was more kind of worrying, and he had to text me whenever time he arrived or was leaving Lincoln. When he was going abroad for his year in Belgium, that was really worried time, because he is very self-sufficient, so he done his own accommodation, he arranged everything over there. However, I knew he was going there with 2 days staying in the hotel because accommodation wasn't available then, so I did worry. However, everything turned out good, so the worries were really unnecessary because he's very independent. I would definitely worry because my younger one wants to go to America if it's gonna be available due to lockdown in 2 years' time. So yes, I will be preparing probably more for my younger one. I have to actually toughen up as a mother, not to manage him so much as I'm doing at the minute.
I think I was a bit like you, Maria, at first. I think I overcomplicated things. I worried too much. I don't know if it's just me or whether it's because he was my only child. So there'd always been me and him, and who was I going to be when he wasn't there? You know, like my identity was going to disappear. You know, selfish thought maybe, but I was worried. You know, I've been mum all this time. Now who am I? And so that took some getting my head around, I think, for a while. And I think I compensated for that by buying too much and trying to, have you got enough forks? Have you got enough, I don't know, pillowcases? Just overdoing it, I think. And I do remember, clear as day, taking him on the day to drop him off, car full, as you can imagine, you know, dragging on the floor, that bad. And then when I left him there, I expected to be a dribbling mess, but actually I was fine. It almost felt not liberating, not like, you know, open the door, kick you out and off you go, but I expected to feel a lot worse than I did. And I think there was maybe a week or so went by when I was watching the phone for a text or a message, and he was off at Freshers having a whale of time, and so I was worried a little bit. But after that first week, I think it was fine, you know, it was nice. I started to enjoy the fact that my son had grown up and become responsible, and I almost felt like I'd done my job. Mm-hmm. So although I was worried at first about how I would feel, actually it was quite good. Quite an achievement.
I found it difficult in the fact that I come from a family where nobody went to university. I've never been to university. My husband's never been to university. None of our family have. So he's actually the first in our family to have gone. And so I've got absolutely nothing to go by. I've got no experience myself. I can't say to him, this is going to happen and that's going to happen, because I had absolutely no idea. But he will have that experience when he has children. So
do you think that helped or hindered?
I don't know. I think first of all it hindered because I had expectations and I think he had expectations. But the experience that he had first time round has given him a lot better grounding second time round, because we've not made the same mistakes as before. We did make a few mistakes before, and he's doing it on his terms now, and he's a lot more confident, and it's taken from September, well, a whole year and this term for him to actually say, no, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to do it. But he's starting to do it now, and he hasn't got to worry about anybody else, which is really nice to see.
I know some of you have mentioned it already, but did anybody else want to comment on how you felt on the run up and then on moving day?
No, I'm pretty much the same as John, actually. Get them out there and say goodbye, because he's my youngest of three, so the other two had already gone, so it wasn't the first time I'd experienced a child going, and he was coming back again. So
for my elder one, he lived at home year 1, 2 and now year 4. However, when he was going away to Belgium, I worried because accommodation wasn't set for a certain time, so it was worrying time. I wondered, even though he was very independent, I worried a little bit because of studies. I thought that being in Belgium, I have no control over it, so he kind of likes parties. So I thought he's gonna party more than study, but actually he did quite well. So I shouldn't have worried. But yes, it's another country, so you do worry, especially in that place where he was, in Ghent. We've never been before. We wanted to visit, and he says, no, no, no. So it was worrying time, it was really. But unfortunately, it was cut short, so he came back early because of lockdown.
What do you feel you did right and wrong? If you had to do it again, would you do things differently?
I would. I think because I pushed my younger one to go for Lincoln, where he had a choice to go to Nottingham. Because again of lockdown, the teachers were setting the grades and he needed 3 Cs to get to Nottingham Trent for the same course. And he really wanted to experience the life away from home. But because I wasn't sure he's gonna get the grades, plus he's kind of an emotional child. So I thought emotionally he may not manage. So I kind of coerced him to accept the conditional offer. But I wish actually he went away and experienced a little bit of that life.
I think for me, with 4 children going to university, I think the whole process has been slightly nuanced to each child anyway. So, you know, we've done things slightly different with my daughter than we did with my sons. They're all on different courses. They all did different things. So I think the differences are dependent on the child themselves and what they want, and I think it's driven by them. So we helped them out whichever way they wanted to, and for the 4 of them, it's been slightly different. So yeah, it depends. It depends on the child themselves.
I think for me, I would probably try and relinquish a little bit of control. Actually, I think I was probably trying to force everything too much. Trust in his decisions a little bit more, and maybe, I don't know, I think there was an element of trying to live vicariously through somebody else, you know, wanting to do it myself again or something. I don't think I'd change everything, but I would probably change the way I behaved towards him at the time, because there were quite a few arguments over who was right and who he wanted to do this and I wanted him to do that, and it became quite tense, I think, towards the end. Not because we were really arguing, I think it was just the way we were both dealing with the emotion of what was about to happen. So I think I would keep some of my comments to myself that I maybe made that shouldn't have. But other than that, I think it was okay.
I think in hindsight, looking at both his universities, I think I should have got more involved the first time and not left him to his own devices, because he is very mature, but obviously wasn't mature enough to be at university to make those decisions for himself. So I think I should have had more of a say in what he did.
Do you think your young people feel the same?
I think mine would agree with me that I pushed too hard, and I think at the time, or closer to the time that he went, because mine went last year, he's in his 2nd year now. I think at this time last year, he would have said that I did everything wrong. But I think now that he has lived a little while and sort of taken some of it on board, I think now he probably realises that as a mum, I had a very different perspective to him. And I think he understands that more now. But trying to force him into, you know, buy a slow cooker and prepare your meals for the week and all the sort of ridiculous things that I was spouting at the time that I thought would be helpful. No, he would definitely agree with that.
For my boy, he says he wished, for younger one, he wished he went to Nottingham. However, with COVID, he says maybe it was sensible to stay at home because his friends who went to Nottingham, they all had passed through COVID. So he's halfway this way and that way, but he blames me a little bit that I push him to accept the unconditional offer. But he says it doesn't really matter because the course is good and he's enjoying it. So, but he would have preferred to be in Nottingham.
I think for me, I really don't know. I mean, they seem to have enjoyed it. Apart from my eldest son, who decided that the Air Force was more appealing. But the 2 that are at uni at the moment, I think they're doing it. They've got the best of both worlds. They can still come visit us. One lives at home. He's working at Tesco's, having a whale of a time. We never see him. And the other one lives in Newark, and he comes home when he wants to. Obviously, COVID permitting, but I think they know that we've got their back, and I think that's the most important thing. That you know, I don't think that they think we've made a mistake or we'd do it any differently. I think they know that we're supporting them 100%, and they'll make their own way in life. And I think university life is very much along that premise that they make the decisions. They might be persuaded to make some sort of decision, but in the end, it's their decision, and they're adults now. So let's let them get on with it.
It's like a safety net, isn't it? They're going to make mistakes, but I think we need to let them make the mistakes and just let them feel confident that we're there to pick them up if they fall. But it's like taking the stabilizers off, isn't it? the older version.
Okay, the final question is, if you could give parents about to go through this process some advice, what would it be?
I think for me, I think the best bit of advice I could give is go on social media and look at comments. Actually do your background research on the unis themselves. You do hear some horror stories, and they're often publicised way more than the good stories. And I think if you can get a rounded view of university life from a student's perspective, then yeah, it's great. But I certainly did a lot of research on social media at the start, and yeah, we never looked back really.
Yeah, I agree, John. I did a lot of that as well. I think for me, communication from the word go, like an open dialogue. Don't be honest about how you're feeling and what you're thinking, and just keep talking it through all the way, right from the moment where they're making choices or thinking about choices, right up until the day that you drop them off with their suitcases. Because otherwise things get bottled up, things get pent up, and I think, you know, you might both be thinking the same thing, but neither one of you wants to say it. So I just think be open, be honest, and keep talking.
Yeah, I'll agree with both of you. Talking, the communication, checks, and if COVID, how it would allows us visit the places themselves, because you may see something you don't like in each university if you are allowed to go, because we don't know what's going to happen next year. But definitely communication is the most important thing. And sometimes sometimes with boys it's more difficult. I don't know, boys or girls, I don't want to generalize, but yeah, be there for them, you know, be the wiser one, and also the shoulder to cry on if they need to. Even boys, they do cry sometimes. So yeah, be there.
Yeah, I'd say all of those things. Be there for them when they fall, to pick them up and put them back again. They have to live with the choices that they make, so you have to let them make the choices.
And also, sorry to disrupt, I always taught my children to have 4 plans, A, B, C, D. So if the first one doesn't work, you have the B, you have the C, and I've taught them from the early age, because not always in life you can achieve what you are trying to do. So you cannot be stuck there and I don't know what to do. If this one doesn't work, you have another plan and another and another. So I think that's quite wise to do.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions. It's great to hear your views and your opinions on university. We greatly appreciate your time to obviously talk about this, and that's the end of this question time.
Thank you.
Thank you.